Hey, what is going on, Motor Coach World? Welcome to another episode of all you bus nuts, geeks, and enthusiasts out there. My name is James. For those of you who've had the pleasure of purchasing a brand new car, it's a feeling of joy, accomplishment, and for me at least, a feeling of terror as well. I mean, I drove my parents' cars all throughout high school up until the point I left for college. Then I kind of needed to get one of my own. I wasn't one of those kids who had wealthy parents that got me my dream car at the age of 18. My first car was a 1991 Subaru Justy with about 99,000 miles on it. It was a 3-cylinder hatchback about the size of a queen-size bed and light enough for my friends and I to lift it up and carry it sideways into parallel parking spots. But hey, it was a car and it was mine, and I was extremely grateful when my dad handed me the keys. It was the car that made me realize how much I loved driving a stick shift. And for such a small 3-cylinder vehicle, it actually had all-wheel drive. People with giant pickup trucks stuck in snowdrifts after a blizzard gazed upon my little clown car cruising by with no issues at all, with frustration on their faces. I mean, it just wouldn't get stuck. But since then, I've had several cars, all of which I bought used and with nearly 100,000 miles already on the vehicle. I always saved up and made sure I had enough money to purchase them outright so that I wouldn't have a car payment. I mean, I'm sure I could have taken on a car payment, but I've always tried to avoid it. On April 4th, 2020, 2 weeks before my 36th birthday, I took the dive and purchased my dream car, brand new, with 20 miles on the odometer. For the first time in my life, I bought a vehicle that wasn't used and I took on a car payment. For those of you who have had the pleasure of buying a brand new car, one of the best things about the whole experience, at least for me, was the new car smell. It's kind of intoxicating, and I kind of wish it would last forever. There's one thing that's even better than the smell of a new car, and that, my friends, is the smell of a brand new motor coach. Now, I've already done a video on what to look for when buying a used coach bus. Feel free to check it out. I'll put the link up here. But today, we're going to talk about how motor coach companies decide on what make and models of buses to buy when building up their fleet. Purchasing a new motor coach to add to your fleet is probably one of the most exciting and joyful experiences of running a bus company. But for the person that's actually writing the check, usually the owner, the joyful and exciting experience is also mixed with a bit of terror, hope, and doubt. I mean, when you sink $500,000 into a piece of equipment that you're relying on to make all that money back and then some, that's a big decision to make, and one that should be made carefully and strategically.
Living is making choices.
So what are some of the things a fleet owner should consider when building up his or her fleet of coaches? With all the different makes and models of coach buses available out there, one of the decisions a bus company owner will have to make is, should I make my fleet focused on just one make and model, or should I buy one of each and try them all out? A fleet that consists of just one make and model of bus does come with many benefits. For one, your drivers will always be familiar with the coach no matter which one they drive. Also, if you're doing repair work on them in-house, you and your technicians won't have to spend time learning the quirks of multiple different designs. Both of these factors will reduce headaches as well as labor time. Owning a fleet of coaches consisting of just one type of vehicle will also save you on the number of parts and inventory you have to keep on hand. Keeping things like spare belts, pulleys, tires, light bulbs, along with a plethora of other parts in your garage will minimize the amount of downtime your bus will spend waiting on parts to arrive when things need to be replaced. After all, when a $500,000 piece of equipment is sitting and not making you money, it's actually costing you money as well, because you're still paying for things like insurance and stickers and plates and other permits as well, regardless if your bus is moving or not. But if you do have a more diverse fleet of 2 or more different makes and models of buses, you may have to keep 2 or more different sizes of tires and wheels in your storage room. Also, 2 or more different types of belts, as well as different types of light bulbs and pulleys. Although certain parts will fit multiple different models of vehicles, most of the time they don't. So now your money is getting tied up in parts inventory because these parts are not cheap. And if you do have 3 or 4 or 5 different types of coach buses in your fleet, you better have the extra cash laying around to stock up on extra parts for each of them. Otherwise, part of your fleet will be sitting there for a few days while you're waiting on a light bulb to arrive. Oh, and you also want to make sure that you have the right software to diagnose any kinds of check engine or other fault lights that appear on the dash. Ranging between $800 to $3,000 a year for a subscription, if the two different make and models of coaches you have don't use the same software, well, guess what?
What?
You're going to need to purchase subscriptions for multiple software packages just to see what's wrong with your coach. So at this point, you may be asking yourself, James, why on earth would anyone keep a fleet of multiple different makes and models of vehicles? I mean, it sounds expensive and kind of a pain in the butt. Well, the answer is only buying one type of motor coach to add to your fleet may cost you more up front.
What? But you just...
Yes, I know, I just told you all that it's gonna save you lots of money and labor time if you keep a fleet of buses that are the same make and model. But shopping for motor coaches is not that different than shopping for anything else. You always want to find the best deal. So let's say that you have a successful motor coach business going and you're the proud owner of a fleet of 10 Van Hool CX45s. At about $500,000 a bus, that's about $5 million of buses you have going out every day, making you money. One day, you decide that you want to buy another motor coach to add to your fleet because you're getting more bookings than your 10 buses can handle. You relish in the fact that you have one type of bus in your fleet and you're going to stick with it because it saves you on all the headaches of, well, everything I mentioned earlier. All of a sudden, you see a brand new shiny MCI J4500 for sale for about $450,000.
I don't believe you.
It's not a Van Hool, it's a whole nother animal. I mean, $50,000 is a lot of money to save. So will you do it? You see, we as human beings have several things going against us. No matter how much we love one thing, by nature, we are programmed to be curious about the other thing that we've never tried before. That's why we have the old saying to remind us that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. But what if it is? I wonder what the MCI J4500 drives like. Ooh, and look at that fancy new interior. I mean, it's kind of shiny and good looking. That gung-ho attitude of being strictly a Van Hool fleet and lover is starting to falter within you.
My God, Bones, what have I done?
I mean, come on, we've all been there. Maybe not with buses, but with many other things in our lives. Unless you as an owner/manager have a disciplined mind with a solid business plan set in place based on the math of keeping a solid single make and model fleet.
You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up, get on your feet.
The forces of nature are slowly going to break you down and make you try other things. And guess what? The salesmen that these bus manufacturers employ are completely aware of this complex that we have. Before you know it, you are now the proud owner of 10 Van Hools and one MCI J4500. You stride around proudly, relishing on your new bus with its new looks. All the new parts and tools and software package subscription fees that you'll have to buy will slowly trickle in soon. But that's far from your mind right now. You're too busy drooling over this new bus you just bought. Oh, and it doesn't usually stop there. Before you know it, that Prevost salesman is going to be dropping by and offering to let you demo that shiny new Prevost H345 for a few weeks. Another fact that many inexperienced fleet owners do not consider is the supply line of parts for the coach you buy. Sure, the salesman just came by and offered you a glimpse of an exotic-looking coach that just got introduced into the market. Some of us just love things that are exotic. I mean, we all love the image of prestige and wealth, and we all kind of want to stand out a little bit. For example, in the US, those who go out and purchase expensive Mercedes cars compared to those who go out and buy a Toyota, well, here in the US, that Mercedes will cost you a lot more up front than that Toyota, and will also lose value twice as fast as that Toyota. For example, when it comes time to replace the shocks and struts of the car, a strut for a Toyota Camry is about $99, whereas a strut for a Mercedes will cost you about $600. Again, those are the prices here in the US, and those of you living in other countries will experience different things. But sure, here in the US, the Mercedes looks fancier, turns a lot of heads when you pull up into a gas station, and makes you look like $1 million. But you better have those $1 million when it comes time to do maintenance on that vehicle. Now, nothing against Mercedes owners. I mean, I am kind of biased because I love Toyotas, but I mean, hey, if you have the money to spend, then have at it. Well, the same concept applies when choosing what make and model of motor coach to buy to add to your fleet. So before you start drooling over that special reduced price tag the salesman made that's only for you, be sure to look up things like where is the closest parts distributor? How long does it take for parts to arrive if I need to order them? How much are these parts going to cost me compared to parts for other make and models? And how frequently are people replacing them? You see, no matter how new a coach bus is, sooner rather than later, you'll need to start buying parts for the vehicle to keep it roadworthy. In some circumstances, if your motor coach business is close enough to a service center for this particular brand of bus, you may be able to strike up a deal to have them do the maintenance for you, which really isn't a bad deal, and I know a few bus companies that actually do that. But before you shake hands, just make sure you know how much they want for labor and parts, as well as making sure the service center is not hundreds of miles away from your facility. Otherwise, every time you need to send one of your buses to get repaired, you'll be racking up the deadhead miles as well as fuel costs. Oh, and also, if you do decide to be unique and stand out and buy a fleet of coach buses that are uncommon in your market or in the area around you, when the day comes where the coach suffers a road failure, no one around you is going to have the parts and tools that's needed to fix it, which means your exotic, fancy coach that makes you stand out is also going to make you stand alone and stranded.
Most of our equipment is incompatible with Federation technology.
How unfortunate for you.
Now, we all want the latest and greatest when it comes to buying new things, right? I mean, that shiny new Apple phone that just came out, that laptop you've been eyeing for a few weeks now, that shiny new Armani purse. Well, for me personally, I tend to avoid any brand new technology that's just been implemented, at least for a while, and especially when it comes to motor coaches and cars. So, for example, many of you have requested that I do a video on MCI's new all-electric coach, the MCI J4500 Charge. And believe me, I plan on doing one as soon as I get more info on it, maybe after I get a chance to test drive it one day so that I know a bit more about it before I start talking about it. As far as recommending to the CEO of my company to go out and buy one right now, well, I'm gonna wait. This is just my opinion and my way of doing things. I am not and do not claim to be an expert by any means on this new electric motor coach or any other motor coaches out there. I personally think that the MCI J4500 Charge is absolutely stunning. I mean, it's no secret that I love MCI products and brands, and I have all the faith in their ability to put out a good, solid coach bus. But still, with that said, I won't recommend to the company I work for to purchase the Charge anytime soon, and here's why. When it comes to any new piece of technology, and not just buses, I want to wait and see how it does in the industry during its first few years. No matter how advanced a new piece of technology is in any industry, and no matter how much testing it's been through already, if I'm actually interested in getting it eventually, I'm going to start out by observing it for a while first, especially if the cash flow and reputation of my business relies on it. My personal philosophy is new technology coming off of any production line is still going to need more refining. What makes any product a solid and reliable one is the fine-tuning done on it after we, the consumers, start to use it and give the engineerings or designers the feedback. I would rather wait until something new gets all the bugs worked out of it, even if they're only minor ones, before I buy it so that I'm not stuck being the guinea pig. And if the product should prove unpopular and not catch any traction in the industry down the road, well, if I were to have purchased it right off the showroom floor, chances are I'm stuck with it now, as the value of this new flashy piece of technology would have probably plummeted, and I'll be lucky if I can even sell it for a third of what I paid. Now, if you're a fleet manager or an owner of a company, whether it being in the motor coach industry, trucking industry, airline, whatever, let me know down in the comments below or on Motor Coach World's new Facebook page what your preferences are when it comes to making purchasing decisions for your fleet. Do you like having multiple different makes and models comprising your fleet, or are you a single brand operation, and why? I'm definitely curious to hear your opinions. Well, folks, hope you all enjoyed today's video. As always, thanks for watching. And if you're watching this, then you are part of the motor coach world.